Welcome to Rigglefish, a game aimed at engaging high school biology students in learning about genetics through student-driven scientific inquiry. In Rigglefish, the player takes on the role of Dr. Waters, a geneticist tasked by the government with developing a protectant against a deadly bioweapon. That protectant is Omega X, an enzyme produced by yellow Rigglefish. To develop a supply of the protectant, Rigglefish will have to be farmed, but they possess a number of traits that make them difficult to breed in captivity. Players work in a top-secret underwater research lab to breed a mating pair of Rigglefish with 4 targeted traits. To do this, players have to learn how different alleles, or versions of the same gene, interact with each other, and how the genotypes an organism carries affects its phenotypes, or observable traits. The lab contains all the instruments students need to capture, study, and breed Rigglefish, as well as access to information resources to support their work. Players typically begin here, in the bathysphere, where they can capture fish. Early in the program, players tend to capture randomly, but later, when they come back, they're looking for fish with particular traits. Scientists have used bathyspheres for decades to explore the ocean, so this gives players an opportunity to experience that type of exploration for themselves, within the context of working toward the game goal. When players return to the lab, the fish they captured are transferred to the sample tanks, where players can observe them and begin identifying the phenotypes and genotypes of the fish they collected. To do this, players use one of the guides provided within the program. It offers background information on each of the traits the player is tracking. For example, male Rigglefish all have spots on their tails, so determining gender in this case is a simple matter of observation. Some traits are more complicated. For example, the 2 alleles for color in a Rigglefish are incompletely dominant. Fish with only the C1 allele are yellow, and fish with only the C2 allele are red. Fish with one of each type of allele are orange. These 2 examples are both visible traits. However, not all traits are visible, so players must use the virtual instruments in the lab to further investigate these traits. The pressure tank allows players to determine if a fish can survive in low-pressure environments. For example, this fish was caught at shallow depths, so it's able to survive in low pressure. The PCR allows players to prepare samples of DNA from individual fish. They then examine these samples in the gel electrophoresis to determine a fish's genotype for the wiggle gene. For example, this fish here has only the recessive allele, so it has a wiggle. Players are trying to breed a fish without a wiggle, so this wouldn't be a good one to use. The breeding tank allows players to cross a male and female fish, then select offspring to study and possibly use in further breeding. Throughout the game, players use the interactive Punnett square to determine combinations of parent fish that can lead to offspring with the targeted traits. The Punnett square is designed to help players build a connection between genotypes and phenotypes, as well as understand the role that probability plays in the field of genetics. Rigglefish challenges players to come up with specific strategies to reach their goal, much the way that scientists do. For example, one strategy is to breed for 2 traits at a time, such as color and pressure sensitivity. One way to get fish that are not sensitive to low pressure is to capture them in shallow waters. However, there are no yellow Rigglefish at shallow depths. Players learn through observation that the yellow ones are eaten by a predator that lives in shallow waters. However, by reading the information resources and playing with the Punnett square, players discover that 2 orange fish can produce yellow offspring. By breeding 2 orange fish captured in shallow waters, players can obtain a yellow fish that is pressure insensitive. Players develop and share further strategies to obtain the target fish. There are many different ways to get the target fish, but players must work quickly before the lab is discovered by enemy agents. The point system in Rigglefish is designed to reward players for accurately identifying the phenotypes and genotypes of fish, and for breeding the target fish. Players lose points for time and for guessing. In Rigglefish, no one tells the player what they have to learn or do. Instead, because they want to breed the target fish, players determine what they need to know. Players design their own investigations and direct their own learning. In this way, gameplay in Rigglefish resembles the way that scientists work, allowing players to experience for themselves what it's like to be a scientist.